What's up, Fit Fam? This is Giovanni of Gio's Logic, your host of Fitness Junkeez. I hope this show meets you in good health and fitness, but if not, I hope it inspires you to do something about it. I'm really excited that you get to meet this next guest because she is cool as shit and nice as ever and beautiful. So with no more further ado, hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm really good. We've met and we did our work at the Kilo Club, but we didn't really get to talk much. So now we're going to get into you. And the question I ask all my guests is, how did you become a fitness junkie? What's your story?
Oh, man, it's such a long story. I feel like it was an evolution. It wasn't something that just kind of, I woke up one day and was like, I want to do this. I actually got really sick in college, and I had a bunch of health issues over the course of about a year. And nobody could figure out what was wrong with me. I had so much blood testing done. And then literally they scared me. They were like, you have a tumor, you have cystic fibrosis. And I was like, what? And here I am working 3 jobs, putting myself through college, and they scared me. I was like 21 years old, 22. And I was like, well, this is terrible news.
Right.
And then they couldn't figure it out. All of that wasn't true. I didn't have any of those things. So then I just started self-medicating through diet and exercise. I actually got first really heavy into yoga, but I always kind of felt like something was missing there for me. And like you said, we don't really know each other, but I think when you meet me, it's pretty obvious I can be a very intense person. So then I moved to Vegas, and I moved out here also on a whim on my own. And I was like, I just want to go and try something new and make some money, pay off my student loans. And so when I got here, then I started lifting weights, and I was like, wow, I really like this. And then it made me feel a lot better too. And it was just something that I started to really enjoy. And then I had a couple people approach me like, hey, have you ever thought about doing a bikini competition? I'm like, a bikini competition? What do you mean? Like standing on a bar, like
Right.
in a
T-shirt
bikini?
contest?
Yeah. And they're like, no, like a bodybuilder competition. I was like, well, no. And then it just kind of snowballed from there. And then the first show I ever went to was the first show I ever competed in. And the second I stepped on that stage, I loved it. And I've pretty much been living that lifestyle since.
When was that first show?
2017.
Wow.
No, was it 17? No. Yeah, I think
Okay.
2017. Yes.
Now,
The end of 2017.
and you mentioned you've done several nationals. Have you got your pro card yet?
I have not.
Okay.
So in 2 weeks from now, I'm actually doing the Arnold's Amateur. And they only give out 2 pro cards for the whole bikini division, not even per class, per division. What? So it's a very competitive show to try and get your pro card in, but I'm going for it.
So number 1 overall and number 2 overall, they're only 2 that get there. Wow.
Only 2, yeah. So most national shows, it's either first place or second place
Right.
in their class. And this is a pro qualifier, so not necessarily a national show. So when it's a pro qualifier, only the top 2 overall get pro cards.
So you got your work cut out, and you're basically there.
I am.
When is it?
Less than 2 weeks.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
So
12 days.
you hungry right now? Hangry?
You know, I always try and tell myself, what am I more hungry for?
Ooh, I like
You know, because
that.
it's like, yes, I'm hungry for food, but what I'm more hungry for is achieving my dreams. And
Awesome.
this is such a big dream of mine. So I have to switch my perspective, I tell myself, on what I'm hungry for.
I love that.
Yeah.
And so when it's over, when you've got your big trophy or whatever they give there, what's your jam, your food jam that you're gonna get into?
So normally, okay, let me just say my past 2 shows, my post-show meal has been terrible, and I immediately had to jump right back into prep because I did a show at the end of November and December, and now again at the beginning of March. So I've been in prep for a while
That's
at
a
this
tough
point.
tough time to do it too, all through the holidays.
It is, but it keeps you focused, you know? So I've come to the conclusion to have zero expectations for my post-show treats. And there's one thing that I have told myself, I'm like, you know what? This is just what I want to make sure I have after every show, which is a nothing bundt cake, because I also have celiac. So, but they make the best chocolate chip gluten-free bundt cake, and it's so delicious. And so I'm like, you know what? If I get that every time, I'll never be disappointed.
Nice, nice. So it's a sugar hit that you're looking for.
Yeah, you know, it's so funny. Before I ever even started competing, I was such a savory person. I had no sweet tooth really at all except ice cream.
Wow.
And now I love sweets.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Isn't that kind of funny how it kind of changes your body chemistry and you crave different things?
Right.
Yeah.
So I want to get into that. Like you were saying, no one knew what was wrong with you. And then you stumbled on what to find out that you had celiac and.
Yeah. So, again, it's kind of like an evolution. So one thing that we did for sure find out was that I had hypoglycemia as well. So obviously I started learning about sugars and processed foods and kind of how to get my blood sugar under control. Maybe that's why, I don't know, my cravings for sugar have changed as well. I'm not sure.
Yep.
I'm sure it does, but why, I don't know.
You're not a doctor.
Right.
Nutritionist.
So then I also had to do a cleanse, and it was actually when, like I said, I was into yoga and I started teaching yoga and I doing all of that. There was 2 teachers at the studio that I worked for, and I was really privileged in the way that I learned from some really amazing people who had a lot of knowledge, and they wrote this book called The Conscious Cleanse. And I did it. And when I did that, I found out that it was gluten that was causing like kind of all my digestion and inflammatory issues. And so then I just started changing my diet and figuring out what worked for me, eliminating those processed sugars, processed foods, and eliminating gluten out of my diet. And the way I felt was night and day.
Really?
Yeah, night and day.
Wow.
Yeah.
And do you feel like you had more control of your body composition as far as, you know, what you eat and to get your body the way you want it?
Oh, of course. But at that point, it was more about feeling better than it was about the aesthetics.
Right.
You know, obviously, being a young woman, you want to look a certain way too. But I was like, I just feel terrible all the time.
Oh, God.
You know? And so it was like, I just need to figure this out to like make myself feel better more than anything.
I love that you found good health and feeling better and thriving through nutrition, because so many people don't realize not only mood and things like that are affected by what you eat, but like
1000%. Everything.
Yeah.
Your brain capacity, your focus. I mean, your food is your fuel, right? So how your body operates is what you give it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Enough people don't realize that. More people are, but it's a message that I try and really tell everybody. It's not, you don't have to be, you know, vegan or carnivore or paleo or whatever, but like you got to figure out what works for your body.
Absolutely. But I mean, not to say I don't ever indulge in the bad things, because I do. I was just talking about bundt cake, but I always describe it as there's a difference between feeding your body and feeding your soul, and you have to know when to do both. Yeah, right.
You come up with the great little phrases. I love that.
Oh, it's just my little things that go through my head that get me through, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
I agree. It's. I usually tell my clients it's depending on where you are and where you want to be, you got to think it's, you know, a 90-10 equation. Eat clean 90% of the time, and then 10% of the time you can enjoy and indulge. Or if you're, you know, you have more serious goals, or you're, you know, in a battered place, you maybe need to raise it to, you know, 85-15 or even, you know, 80-20.
Yeah.
Is that what you kind of...
I mean, I think it depends on the person. Like, what are your goals? Right. You know what I mean? But I think there's no substitute in feeling good in your own body. And confidence comes from putting in the work, right? So if you're only putting in the work and you're 70% of the time, how good are you really going to feel? Now, when you get to 100, nobody's ever at 100%, but if say that's your goal, right? So you get to 100%, you're sticking on your diet, you're doing everything 100% of the time. The way you feel about yourself is going to be astronomically different. But once you reach that 100, then your 100 is going to start to look a little different, right? Like maybe your goal of 100 is more in that 70-30 range. Does that even make sense?
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
To where you're like, okay, I've reached this milestone, this goal. So now you kind of can re-alter what that looks like for you. Your diet and exercise is never a one-stop shop. This isn't what you're going to follow for forever, right? It's always going to change. Your body changes. Your responses to things change. So it's a constant work in progress. It's never finished. But I think the importance of having a goal and getting where you want to be and giving it 100% initially is important. And I know experts say different, like small goals here and there, here and there. And that's true. And that is more sustainable. But would you rather be where you want to be in 6 months or in 6 years?
Right.
You know? So I don't know. I guess I go back and forth, but it kind of depends on the client. Because for someone like me, as I already said, who can be a little intense, I like to go that full capacity and see what I'm capable of and then kind of alter from there. But everybody's different. I've had clients too where I'm like, okay, this week your goal is just to drink 1 water bottle a day, you know?
Right.
And so it kind of just depends on the person. Everybody responds differently.
Right.
Yeah.
And those wins add up and they give you momentum. So that's a good strategy.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that your back-to-back shows help you focus.
Yeah.
Focus on what?
Well, see, this is actually the most, I've never done 3 shows this close together, but I will also say I have no intention of stopping even after this show.
Wow.
I feel like I've already given myself too many breaks before I got where I wanted to go because I'm still not there. So why, while I have this momentum, take another break? My body's responding well, and so I want to keep going. But when you focus on yourself, first and foremost, the rest of your life seems to kind of come together, right? You're able to put your attention in other areas with more purpose. And I think that always starts with working on yourself. And for me, that's bodybuilding. What that is for somebody else is going to be different.
Right.
But it causes you to focus. It causes you to manage your time. And it keeps you disciplined, right? Because motivation is a fleeting thing. You're not always motivated. Even, right now, 2 weeks out, do I want to go to the gym every day? No, not every day. Right. I mean, I love it, but some days are much harder than others. But when you keep that discipline and you keep that focus, it forces you to stay in that routine to be successful.
Right.
Yeah.
One guy that I love, this guy named Jocko. I don't know if you've heard of him.
Jocko Willink.
Yeah.
Love him.
I love how he says...
Extreme Ownership is a great book.
Yes. Discipline is freedom, he says.
It is.
And that's like, wow. Like, everyone thinks discipline is a 4-letter word, but it really frees you up. And like you said, it then the rest of your life flows.
Yep.
That's really great. So another thing I want to pick out of your journey is you seem such like a independent maverick type personality. Like you worked yourself through school, you moved to Vegas by yourself on a whim to pay back your loans. Like, where does that come from? What was who was that source in your life that gave you that kind of a strength?
I don't really know where it came from, to be honest. I'm definitely the black sheep of my family. I've always just been wired, I guess, to want to give my all and go at full capacity at all times. I have big dreams, And I think everybody should have big dreams and know that you're completely capable of whatever you want to achieve. If you have a desire in your heart, I mean, whatever your belief is, I believe in God. I'm a Christian, and for me, it's like if that desire is in my heart, it was put there with a divine purpose, and it wouldn't be there if I wasn't intended to have it. So I should go for it.
Okay.
But my mother has always been my biggest supporter. She's amazing, very close, love her. And it's funny because I'm actually the youngest of 4, but I've always been the most independent. Usually the youngest is the most baby, the most dependent. But for me, I've always been the most independent.
Wow.
If I get something in my head, I'm like, I'm just going to do it.
Right. And you've got something in your head about bodybuilding and bodybuilding competitions. What is that goal? Where are you headed?
Well, I'm hoping to head to Olympia.
Okay.
But in the bigger picture of things, fitness obviously changed my life and the way I was feeling and being sick. And I think fitness has been the catalyst to give me the confidence that I have now to want to go towards even other dreams. I'm starting a bikini line with my best friend. Nice. And I think that I kind of just lost my train of thought.
It's okay. We're talking about where you're going with bodybuilding.
So fitness has just dramatically changed my life. And I hope that other people can see the changes that I've made in my life through fitness being my catalyst and feel inspired to do the same.
Yes. Yeah. So what I find is the greatest motivator is pain. And was it how you felt? Was it the pain of how you were feeling that was the catalyst? I need to find something to feel better.
I think that's a really interesting perspective. I guess I've never really thought about it like that. Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
I think also the way I grew up, I saw a lot of things from a young age where it kind of gave me where I grew up faster than most. I think I'm kind of a little kid with a really old lady spirit. Okay. Right. But yeah, maybe that was the catalyst, or also just knowing that like I didn't have the money for college. That was my, nobody in my family had been to college. That was like, well, I want to achieve this, and that was what pushed me forward. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'd have to think about that. Okay. But I think that's a really interesting perspective.
Well, I just find it with my clients, most of my clients are people that want to either feel more confident, self-esteem, they're overweight and they can't stand themselves in their skin. Mm-hmm. And then something usually happens that's the catalyst that goes, now it's no more. I got to do something. Right. And that's usually where I find them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And the problem with that, though, is that pain will wane when you start to feel better. You start to look better. And that's kind of how people get on that, revolving door of losing weight, feeling great, and then sliding back into the old lifestyle. And then everything that was the reason you started is back.
Right. But that's why you have to stay in your discipline, in your routine.
Yes.
Even down to the small, fine things like waking up in the morning, having a routine, before you go to bed at night, having a routine. Because without those things, it will always fleet. But I think it's also important to know confidence doesn't come from achieving your goals or having the perfect body when it comes to that. There's always something to learn and continue to improve on. Confidence comes from putting in the work. You can still be 100 pounds overweight, but feel significantly more confident because you know that you've been showing up for yourself every single day. And without that discipline, that's not going to happen.
Preach.
And discipline isn't something that you're born with. I think it's important that people tell me all the time, like, oh, you're so disciplined. I'm like, well, it's a skill. You can develop it. It's not something that you're just born with or you don't have. It's something everyone can be, in my opinion.
Right.
Yeah.
So you worked yourself through school, and what was your degree in? What were you wanting to do with that?
I was a business finance major, and I had 2 paid internships in college. And the biggest thing I learned is that sitting at a desk all day is not for me. I was like, no.
Got it.
But now that I've always kind of wanted to spin that into the more entrepreneurial route, and now I kind of feel that coming in the works, so that makes me really excited.
It's interesting how I always talk about everything in my life that happened, good, bad, or indifferent, has prepared me for this moment.
Always, right? Everything will always be working for you instead of against you, if you let it.
Yes.
Right? If you let it is the key.
Yes.
Because everybody has a story. Everybody has hardship. Everybody goes through things, but it's what you do with them that matters.
Mm-hmm. So true. So the other thing I talk about, I've never taken a client to the stage. I've had some that wanted to do it and then they kind of fell off, but I've never taken anyone to the stage. But I do know through my experience of, following bodybuilding, specifically, women's bodybuilding, the emotional toll it can take when you don't get called out, you don't win, you have all these expectations, and then your ego comes in. How do you deal with that, the rejection of not winning?
Right. Well, I think bodybuilding gets kind of a bad rap sometimes for being such a vain sport, when to me it's not at all. It has become one of the most positive influences in my life in terms of the people it's brought in, the community it's created. But it's not just a physical sport. It's a mental sport. It's a mental game. Just like how you asked me, what are you hungry for? Well, I guess I said that. What am I hungry for?
Right.
You're like, are you hungry?
Right.
And so every time you have a setback, it's only, like we just said, it's only preparing you for something greater. Maybe you need to work harder. Maybe you need to get your mind right. Maybe, everybody who goes through a show, win or lose, has an emotional toll afterwards, because win, maybe then there's pressure into the next show and to be even better. Or, oh, she won, but it was only because of who her team is, or she only won, so win or lose, there's going to be an emotional toll. But you got to just keep going. When everybody stops, that's when you just need to press the gas pedal and just keep going. That's why I already said, I felt like I took too many breaks. And that's why I'm like, I just got to keep my foot on the grass.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love that. That's a good mindset. Yeah, I think it's so important that you separate who you are from anything from the outside.
Right, because it is a subjective sport, right? And when you get up there, nobody knows the work that you put in except you, right? You're the one dealing with it every single day. And you should be proud for even making it to stage. But you want to win too, right? I get it, obviously. I'm a very competitive person. But a setback can only propel you forward. But again, that's up to you.
How you look at it. Yeah. It's a lesson. So you love lifting. You started kind of with the yoga thing. You talked about Pilates classes.
Oh, yeah.
And your how you love to hate cardio. So talk to me about that whole, figuring out your routine as far as fitness and that, coming up to a contest.
Yeah. So everybody always is like, oh, diet's the hardest part. Not for me. For me, it's cardio.
Right.
There's parts of it I enjoy, but when I have to stand on, the elliptical machine for an hour at a time, I get really bored. Yeah. So I had to find a modality that worked for me to still get my heart rate up, still get those calories burned to where I'm just not hating it, right? Because it's about you enjoying your process. And so I do heated Pilates classes or heated boot camp classes 4 times a week. Now I still do my steady state because it's it's a necessary evil, right? To get where I want to go. And usually the things you hate the most, you should lean into the most.
Right.
But yeah, so I do that. And then I used to do like hill drills and sprint drills and that kind of stuff I really enjoyed too, just switching it up to be outside. But yeah, I had to find something else. And also the more conditioned you get and the more shows you do, the harder and harder it became for me to get my heart rate up and get that sweat in. And so being in that heated room helps with that too.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the cardio puzzle. Now, what's your nutrition philosophy if you have one?
I think my whole philosophy is there's a million ways to get to the same end result, right? But your life looks very different than the person's life next to you. So you need to make sure that whatever you choose, you stick with it, you're consistent, and that it works for you and that it makes you feel good, right? Because a diet that works for me isn't going to work for the girl next to me who's doing the same training as I am. We have different bodies, different compositions, you know, and so my philosophy is find something, stick to it, be consistent, and then alter from there.
Okay. And what is your, like, do you do high protein? Are you a consistent, like, same thing every day?
Right now in show, for sure,
Yeah.
it has to be the same thing every single day. I do meal plans. When I first started competing, I was like, oh, I could do macros. And I did, and I was pretty good at it. But you really do get to the next level, and your shape changes much more when you're eating the same thing every day.
Right.
But I found ways to enjoy my food, right? So the way I season it or prepare it right now, it's a little boring. But again, it's the necessary, right?
So I can't.
But in life, I follow macros, usually outside of show prep. And that kind of gives you a little bit more freedom. But I definitely do higher protein. I stick to the pretty traditional 1 gram of protein per pound of goal body weight per day. My body responds much better to carbs because of my hypoglycemia than it does to high fat diets. So I do kind of low to moderate fat, well, moderate because you don't want to go too low and then you get hormonal issues. And then a higher carb.
Okay.
But I keep clean carbs, right? So
Right.
it's the difference. But that's easy for me when you're celiac because that eliminates a lot of the bad carbs.
Right. Do you ever, like, say, fuck it, I'm having this pasta and I'm going to deal with the repercussions?
With gluten?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I can't because I
yeah.
get that sick.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
it's not just like I'll feel like crap the next day. It's like
Right.
I'll be laid out for a week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. My whole face swells up and my belly swells up. I'll look like I'm 6 months pregnant.
Wow.
And I'll feel like there's a brick in there and other things that we don't need to talk about. But
Right.
yeah, I'll feel sick for about a week after I eat it. There's been a couple times I've gone out to eat at restaurants and I've told them, you know, celiac, whatever. And I've still had gluten on accident and it's just not a good time.
Wow.
So also when I'm in prep, it becomes, unless I really know the restaurant and the way they prepare it, I don't really go out to eat at all just because it's not worth the risk.
Right.
Yeah.
And
In-N-Out Burger is pretty gluten-free friendly. So just
other than the buns, you do
the protein style.
Right.
Yeah.
So I got a little taste of your workout style at Kilo Club, and we stopped at the booty machine, and let's see what we had going on at Kilo Club. So, Kaylin, we're here at the Booty Builder at Kilo Club.
One of my favorites, all booty exercises. So basically this is just a good machine that is a good substitute for traditional hip thrusts. So if you don't have this machine, you can use all of these cues while doing a traditional hip thrust. Basically you want to make sure that your upper mid back is going to be placed on the back pad. You're going to place your feet just slightly wider than hip width distance apart. Toes slightly out, and make sure while you're doing this you have a slight external rotation of your femurs. What's important for me is you always keep this kind of posterior tilt in your pelvis to make sure that your glutes stay activated all the way from the bottom of the exercise all the way up to the top. come down slowly. Tempo is very important. And this entire time I'm squeezing my glutes all the way up and all the way down.
Love the technique.
I love building booties.
That was great. So that's kind of like one of the cornerstones of your leg day, right? Mm-hmm. Do you do squats?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
On the shoulders?
I think it's really important to stick with compound lifts too. So normally when I'm doing heavy leg days, I always start with my heavy compounds and then work my way down to accessory work. So that way you're not fatiguing your larger muscle groups in the beginning, so you still have that strength and that power at the beginning of your workout.
Right. And how often do you do legs?
3 days a week.
3.
Yeah. So Mondays and Fridays I do glute and hams. And then on Wednesdays I do kind of an overall with a little bit of quad focus. I naturally have pretty big quads. And for the bikini division, you don't really need ginormous quads. So I kind of have to keep those toned down a little bit. Yeah.
Higher reps, less heavy loads. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
And so you've done a couple shows. I'm going to guess what your favorite body part is, but I'm not going to say it.
Okay.
What was some of the, I know judges sometimes tell you like if you can work on, so what are you working on and what is your favorite body part?
My favorite body part is, obviously I love to train glutes, so probably glutes. My feedback has always been pretty consistent that I need more upper body development. I think for a lot of women, they have issues growing in their lower body. And I don't necessarily know if that's a type of training that they're doing and they're eating, because it does affect like when you eat and how you're training to really get that growth. But for me, I hold the majority of my muscle mass in my lower half. So I need to make sure I get my legs lean enough, which is really difficult for me to keep that upper and lower body symmetry, because I need to build my upper body and get really lean in my lower body, which is a difficult balance. But that's pretty consistent. And what the judges' feedback has been for me is more upper body development, slightly leaner in the legs. Because, you know, even though I have the muscle mass, I hold a lot of water in my legs, but also it just can look a little unproportionate, right? And the bikini division is all about that hourglass symmetry.
Right.
Yeah.
And I assume you gravitated to that division because of your kind of difficulty to put on muscle to, you know, maybe wellness was just starting then, right? When you got into it?
Actually, well, wellness, I'm not sure when it started in Brazil, but it hasn't been in the United States that long.
Right.
So for me, and like I said, the first show I ever even went to was the first show I competed in. So I didn't even really know about the other divisions.
Right.
But aesthetically, that is the look that I really love. And I think that my body is built for, because I have a very small frame. It would be very hard for me to look competitive next to those girls. I mean, they're amazing.
Yeah.
You know, like my best friend Frida, she switched to wellness, and her physique is built for that, division. And I know she's going to do really great, and I'm really excited to see what she's going to do. But for me, bikini is the aesthetic that I prefer on my body, but all love to the other divisions, because they all look great. It's just a matter about how you feel and what you want your body to look like.
Right. And talk to me about your posing and the walkout. I know, like, since I've been following bikini bodybuilding, it's changed so much.
So so much.
And I know how important it is, and confidence, and you know, the bling, it's this whole package.
Yeah.
How do you feel about your walk, your posing, and who helps you with that?
Yeah, so my posing, Frida taught me a lot of what I know about posing. It helps to have a best friend, I guess, that's a 2-time Olympian, because she's taught me a lot of things. She coaches me too. So it makes my coaching experience very fun.
Right.
Maybe not right now, because she'll be like, you're a little crabby. I'm like, stop cutting my carbs. I'm just kidding. But she's taught me a lot of what I've known about posing. But I've had other posing coaches along the way too. But the thing is my posing is even changing on show day, right? Because you work so hard for the package that you bring that day on your body. And even in peak week, your body changes so much once you deplete more or you carb up or whatever your body needs that week to get where you need to be for show day. So even sometimes before I'm going on stage, we're like, oh, well, you had that transition, but we need to hide this, or maybe we need to accentuate this a little bit more, so turn a little bit. Those little small finite details can make a big difference on stage because you're under the lights, the judges sit so close. You work, like I said, started to say, you work so hard for that package. You need to make sure that you're working really hard to present it as best as you can as well. And so even, I'm posing every morning right now. And, it's like, oh, okay, well, maybe I dropped another pound today, but now my glutes look a little less,
plump.
A little less plump. So maybe I need to change my posing where I turn a little bit more to keep that symmetry. Or maybe I need to put them back a little bit. So posing changes all the way up until you step right out there. So the more prepared you are, the more confident you're going to be when you go on stage. And those little changes become easier to make, but they're so important.
And talk to me about confidence. I think that has a lot to do with it. And you at Kilo, you busted a pose out, and I could tell you were confident. There was a confidence. It wasn't shy. It wasn't like, you were just like, boom.
It all goes back to putting in the work, right? So if I put in the work to practice my posing just as much as I put in the work to follow my diet, to follow my workout plan, then that confidence will be there because I put in the work to make sure that I've done everything I need to do to get me to that stage day.
Awesome. So let's see what I think we did some back over at Kilo Club. Let's take a look at that.
Now we're at the free weight.
Awesome. So what are we doing here?
Okay, so we're going to be doing unilateral or single arm lat rows. So for me as a woman, it's always a challenge to learn how to get your body to grow your lats without getting your traps to overactivate. That's always been my issue. And the way that I can do this particular exercise in this setup really helps me isolate my lat for kind of that wing growth to make sure that I get that nice hourglass shape. So take a weight. It should be heavy. You're going to do one side at a time. I take my opposite hand without the weight and I place it firmly on the bench almost to a press. I look in the mirror, make sure my shoulders are level. Bring my right foot back if the weight is in my right hand. And I bend down. My core is tight, belly button to spine. Reach all the way down, and then on an exhale, pull up, but not too high, so that way we're keeping that range of motion solely working in our lats instead of our upper to mid back.
Okay. Again, amazing form, amazing direction. You should be a coach. You do.
Well, I do, yes. That is something that's like very near and dear to my heart, something I really love to do. But time and also just wanting to keep my passion alive for it, not get burnt out on something that I care about so much.
So as a bikini competitor, you can't get too big upper body, right?
Right.
You just want to get lean, conditioned.
Yes.
So do you do much arm work or not really?
So I don't do a lot of biceps and triceps. However, it is important to still work your entire body so you keep that shape and that conditioning throughout your whole body. Actually, for me, I feel like I have a problem that's opposite of a lot of women where it's been a lot harder for me to develop my upper body opposed to my lower body. So I've actually had to work very, very hard for my upper body. And I think women have this conception when they go into the gym that I don't want to lift heavy weights because I'm going to get bulky.
Yeah.
But what they don't understand is the amount of work and sometimes supplements that it takes to get that really big shape as a female. So I think it's important for women to understand that it's okay to feel really strong in the gym and not be afraid of lifting heavy weight, and because lifting that weight is the only thing that's going to change your actual body composition.
That was awesome. George, give me a shout out. That was a great edit.
Yeah. I didn't even know all that was going to be in there.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
He just finished it, I think, last night, and I didn't even get a chance to watch it.
Yeah,
So that was cool.
Thanks for the extras, George.
That was great. And it showed you doing your posing and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, the thing with bulking up and women using that excuse, I think it's an excuse most of the time.
Yeah.
Because it's so hard to put on muscle.
It's so hard.
And if you're bulking up, it's probably you're eating wrong or eating too much crap while working out, because that will bulk you up.
Right.
So.
And I think just in terms of bulking, I think a lot of people, men and women both, use bulking season as an excuse to just eat whatever they want. But
Right.
It's still a time to be strategic, right?
Right.
Because you can only put on so much muscle. Some say no muscle, but while in a deficit. So.
Yeah.
But one thing I didn't mention in that video that I think is really important is, yes, I encourage to lift heavy. However, if you're doing the proper mind to muscle connection in every exercise, you should be able to make any weight heavy. Because you know how to activate that muscle with your mind to muscle connection and make that weight heavy. And I think one of the biggest mistakes I see in the gym is people, well, men usually, not necessarily women, lifting weight that they shouldn't be lifting because it sacrifices their form. If you're in proper form, that's going to be far more efficient every time than just lifting weight just to try and get it up.
Right.
You know?
That's very true.
Yeah.
Men, yes. The ego
It's
comes
an ego
in.
thing for sure.
Yeah. That's a
Men are
really
much
good
harder
point.
to train than women, I think.
I guess it depends on the man. But anyway.
Well, yeah, just because they, the ego comes into play where women don't have as much ego when it comes into the gym. I think for a lot of women, they're scared of the gym because men traditionally are around the gym a lot more, you know, because they play sports when they're younger and they learn to lift. And that's not something that women are really taught, you know?
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
And it's so important.
So important.
As you get older to incorporate some type of resistance training.
Yeah.
And especially for women and their bones and
bone health for sure.
So it's really
carrying babies, that's not easy.
Yeah.
You got to make sure you have a strong foundation to put all of that we put our bodies through.
And people always go, I hate the gym. Well, you don't have to go to the gym. There's ways to do it, but find a way to create some resistance in your workout.
Yeah, but my question for people always is, why do you hate the gym?
Yeah.
Why? Like, have you been?
That's a mixed bag.
Have you been to the gym? Do you know? Do you just feel uncomfortable, so that's why you hate it?
Right.
But you're going to have to be uncomfortable in the beginning of any journey, right? No matter what it is.
Yes.
And the more you know it and the more you develop it and put time into it, the less you hate it.
That's where it all happens, outside of your comfort zone.
Yep, it does, yeah.
So you've got I think a really good system, at least what I can see. It sounds like you have a great coach, which I have followed Frida for a while, since I moved to Vegas a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
But talk about the community that you've and your team that have kind of got you to where you are. Talk about them.
I mean, everybody needs a support system, right? And I feel so blessed to have Frida because we're just best friends. She's the best friend, I mean, any girl could ask for, and best coach. She's really family at this point. She's not just a friend. I call her my wife, but that's a different story. But bodybuilding in general, right? You're standing on stage, you're competing next to these women, But some of the women I've met at shows have become some of my best friends because they are just, you know what it takes to get there, and you kind of share a similar story, and it just bonds you together. And even though you're competing against each other, you help each other, and it's so nice. It's just an empowering thing to be around these other strong, beautiful people who have similar likes to you and want to support you and see you successful. I mean, I can't even tell you how many times you've been backstage and you're like, oh no, this happened, and girls are helping each other, or like, do you need this, or what about this food? Or one of my other good friends, like Lexis Redmond, who's also she was an Olympian in 2020. I remember we competed together at Amateur Olympia, and her coach, I can't even remember the story, but for whatever reason, she didn't have a coach leading up to that show, but she had been in prep, and that's where she got her pro card. I remember being backstage with her. We're in the same class. We'd competed against each other many times at this point, and even I was back there like, okay, you need honey, you need this, you need to get a pump. It's just, even though you're competing against each other, technically, you're still there to help each other, right? And then, just keeping those people around you that are positive and support your dreams outside of who are actual competitors is important, because this is an extreme sport. Not everybody understands, and they don't have to, because it's my dream and my goal, not theirs.
Right.
But you got to keep the naysayers away from you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with that, your team is very supportive. What is your team? That you're
yeah. I'm on Fit Body Fusion, which is Jamie Bernard's team. I just joined them actually right before my first show in San Diego. And I've been on multiple teams now, and I can say without a doubt, they are so amazing. They're so supportive. They're helpful. They genuinely care about their athletes. And when you're on a team, definitely makes that show experience much different, especially when you start going to the national shows, because it's intimidating, right?
Yeah.
There's hundreds of people there competing, and to just have that support and know that there's people there looking out for you, cheering for you in the crowd, care about your success, it makes all the difference. And Jamie is so sweet and has really put together such an incredible team that's very positive and uplifting, and it's awesome.
I'm trying to remember if I follow her. What does she look like?
She's brunette.
Okay.
Very fit. I don't really know how else to describe her besides being really sweet. Her husband, they call him Papa Bear. He's the total show dad. I feel like they're show mom and show dad when you show up there. There to take pictures, to help you with your suit, make sure if you need any content, give you feedback, keep you calm. And all of the coaches that I've experienced on this team thus far have been like that. And it just makes the whole thing so much more special.
And where are they based out of?
Arizona.
Okay.
Yeah. Most teams, it's with bodybuilding, you do most of your coaching online anyway. Right. Once you get to a certain point, because, you want to be coached by the best, and they're going to be all over. Right. But Vegas is very lucky because there's so many amazing people here that are in the fitness industry. It kind of is a mecca.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I also love that there's a lot of misconceptions about the beautiful girls, specifically in the bikini category. And it's great to hear someone like you that's in it to kind of pull back the curtain and go, well, we're not all vanity crazed, bimbos or whatever. There's a lot of love, there's a lot of support. We're doing this for a lot of the right reasons. Yeah. Even though there is a lot of people that are doing things maybe not as healthy, both emotionally and the things they put in their body. Yeah. But it's just good to hear that from someone like you.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, anything's what you make of it, right? There's going to be good and there's going to be bad in everything. Yeah. But if you keep your intentions pure, you can really enjoy your time and make it something that's really worthwhile and really special. And this sport's definitely not for everybody. It's extreme, for sure. Right. And there are those negative things, but, you know,
Right.
you just got to move past it and be like, this is what I'm here for, and this is what I'm showing up for, and this is my why.
Yeah.
And then the rest will kind of follow suit, right? Your intentions lead the experience that you have.
Yes. Brilliant. So I think our last exercise at Kilo Club was just flip me upside down. So let's take a look at it. So I thought we were doing abs.
So we are doing abs.
Okay.
However, I really love taking a mix of functional and athletic-based exercises and putting them together. So when you see this exercise, you're going to think that it's predominantly a leg exercise or a cardio exercise. And it's true, it is those things, but it is also an ab exercise. So be careful because this one sneaks up on you. So what you're going to do is you're going to pick up the ball or the plate, whatever you're going to use. You're going to hold it deep into your chest. You're going to come down into a squat and you're going to jump forward. And while you're jumping forward, you're using your abdominal muscles to crunch and lunge you forward.
So how many would you do of that?
I would stick to 3 to 4 sets, pretty typical when you're doing ab exercises. And depending on the length of where you have room to do this,
Right.
I would try and get in a good solid 20 reps. Whenever I'm doing abs, I try and kind of stay in that 15 to 25 rep range. Also, when I do abs, I think it's important. I never do weighted obliques. I like to keep my waist nice.
Women
and
don't
tight
understand
and
that.
tiny.
They're always doing these. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yes, doing this is actually my number one no-no exercise for everyone because I've never heard a man or a woman say, I want a wider waist. That's exactly how you're going to get it. So when you do weighted abs especially, it's important to keep them in the frontal plane opposed to doing your side movements. And this is a perfect exercise where your abs are in the frontal plane, but you're also getting a lot of other benefits from this exercise besides just your abdominals. It makes a great finisher for any workout.
Love it. I can't believe you said that. I mean, if I had a quarter for every time I saw that being done in the gym, I'd be rich. That was great. Yeah, you surprised me, and on a lot of levels, your knowledge of working out, your knowledge of anatomy and how to enhance a simple movement and make it more focused on the particular body part, specifically the core. You mentioned it multiple times.
Yeah.
In the single arm rows there, even on the booty builder. You mentioned how much it's important it is to keep that area tight and so you really impressed me.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I think it's really important if you're passionate about something, you really need to devote yourself to your craft and learning about it as much as you can. And these aren't things that I just woke up one day and knew. This has been, like I keep saying, it's an evolution, right? You start one place, you absorb, you learn, you tweak, and you just keep going. And I've been very blessed to have amazing coaches and trainers along my way. And I've tried to just take everything they've taught me and keep learning even more. But I'm also a really big nerd.
Are you?
I'm just kind of nerdy like that.
I love it.
Where, I really enjoy learning, and reading and diving deeper and researching and doing those kind of things. I'm very discerning. So if I ever hear something, I don't just believe it. I'm like, I need to figure this out. Is that true?
Right. Right.
So I research,
Nice. So your knowledge in the gym is definitely top level. You've got a lot of stuff going on in your life. And now you're bringing in a new area in your life. How do you manage all those different things and find time for you?
Well, my me time is enjoying what I'm doing, right? And even though I'm doing a lot, I love all of it. And so that makes it easier, right? So you got to do the things that you enjoy and that you're passionate about. And I operate much better when I'm at full capacity all the time. But it comes back to just that discipline, right? So keeping that schedule, keeping that structure to make sure that I'm propelling forward. You know, at the beginning of 2021, I kind of lost that discipline for a little while. And it's crazy how quickly, when you're not doing it every single day, that like things kind of start to fall out of place. And then when you pick it back up, you're like, oh, but it's slow to come and quick to go. Right?
Yes.
So you got to make sure that you're just always staying on top of it. And sometimes it's easier than others. But, you know, when you really love something, it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah. Very true. So do you have any sponsors yet on your journey, your bodybuilding journey, that you want to mention?
Well, I'm an affiliate for the Shoe Fairy and Squeeze Me Skinny Waist Trainers.
Okay.
And then I go to this amazing cryo place in Henderson here in Nevada, Las Vegas, I guess. Well, Henderson.
What's it called?
It's called Restore Hyper Wellness.
Okay.
And I go to them for recovery all the time because they have local cryo, whole body cryo, PBM, hyperbaric oxygen chamber, Normotech. And for one thing that I did kind of on my journey not well for a very long time is prioritizing my recovery. Because like I said, I like to be at full capacity, recovery.
Go.
Yeah, go. But I realized that that's not very wise. And so they are amazing. If you actually mention my name, they will give you a discount in your first session free. So definitely go in and check them out. And then Frida sponsors me on Fit Body Fusion.
Who?
Frida.
Oh.
Again.
Okay.
Frida.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I thought you said Fritos for a second.
Fritos. Who's hungry now? You or me?
So lastly, give me some timelines with your new bikini line. How soon are we going to see some stuff?
Yes, so I wish I could tell you guys the name, but we can't until our trademark goes through, just because we want to make sure that nothing happens with that. But definitely look at either of our Instagrams and you will hear it soon enough. We currently have our samples in production and our designs finalized. So we're just waiting for those first samples to come in before we're like, okay, we need to tweak this or that. And then as soon as we have them and they're finalized, we'll send them. And we're hoping to launch by end of summer because the clothing manufacturing process is very slow. As much as I would love to speed it up, you can only make these things go so fast.
Right.
So we're hoping by summer that we can launch, and we're working really hard to try and make sure that happens. So
Nice. And then that all ties into the bodybuilding and your successes there. That'll help.
yeah, it kind of all fits together, right?
Yeah.
People keep asking, they're like, oh, are you doing competition bikinis? And no, we're just doing lifestyle bikinis. It's just really important to us that we provide a very high quality bikini that makes women feel sexy, confident, but comfortable, right? Because sometimes being in a bikini isn't the most comfortable, no matter what your body looks like. And we just want it to be flattering for different shapes, sizes, and, you know, for women to just really feel confident when they go out. Because I live in a bikini year round, basically, whether it's a competition bikini or a regular bikini.
Right.
Because I've also worked at the clubs for so long. I used to work at day clubs. And so I feel like there's always something missing in the bikinis that I buy. Like either this fits or this doesn't. And they're so hard to find. And I just want to make it easier for women to be like, I love this brand. It makes me feel great. I love supporting the owners and what they stand for. And it's a good, sustainable product. So we're really excited. Yeah.
It sounds exciting. And it's happening now.
It is.
That's
you know,
cool.
it's funny. You put these feelers out there for so long, and then somehow it just kind of starts to come into play, and and then it happens fast. Yeah.
So of all the things that you're doing, how do people find you for whatever area that you're wanting people to find you?
Oh, you mean like my Instagram?
Well, however, like I know you said you were a realtor as well.
Oh, yeah. So I'm a real estate agent as well. That's also something that's kind of new. here in the Vegas area. So if you're buying or selling a house, let me know.
There you go.
But a lot of these things that I just keep all of my info on Instagram. So anything that you need or to contact me, it's pretty easy just to reach out on IG. That's how we found each other.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. You actually responded. That's awesome. Anything else that you want to plug or talk about? I think we covered a lot today.
I don't know. I'm always terrible at the comments and questions section. I always feel like, oh no, I feel like I should say something, but I don't know what to say.
No worries. This was great. Meeting you. You have such a really good energy and personality and
thanks.
brains. It's like you're the full package. It's great.
Don't be too nice to me. You haven't known me long enough. I'm just kidding. Thank you for saying that. I really appreciate being here, and thank you for inviting me on.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Well, Fit Fam, this is a good one. I hope you watch the whole thing. But until next time, I'm out.